Hey everyone, Harry here to talk about another gag order sought against Donald Trump. This one in the upcoming March 25th case that DA Alvin Bragg has brought. A distinctive thing about this one, in other cases, Trump has first acted in inflammatory ways and totally assailed witnesses and the prosecution, etc. This one is saying, look, this has happened now in case after case. You don't need to wait until he makes trouble. You can do this now. And actually, they cite a pretty good data that he is already making trouble. They have the threats that against Alvin Bragg, the DA, in the year before he did the filing against Trump, and in the year after. The year before one, the year after 89. So, it really tends to show that Trump's comments, and he's been incendiary toward Bragg as with everyone else, have the same result. So he's basically, has Bragg tried to use the template of the other cases. This would be, I think, the third in the last months in which he's been subject to a gag order. Bragg filed 300 some page filing with a 30-page argument, just chapter and verse. And the most impressive is the remarks, one after the other, after the other, after the other, in all the judicial proceedings against Trump. And they write, he makes the case for them, does Trump. These remarks, as well as the inevitable reactions they incite from defendants, followers, and allies, pose a significant and imminent threat to the orderly administration of this criminal proceeding and a substantial likelihood of causing material prejudice. And that goes right to the, what's really distinctive and especially dangerous about Trump's loudmouth and vituperation, which is there are all these lone wolves out there. We saw it in the attack on the FBI by a lone wolf supporter. We saw it, the woman from Texas who threatened Judge Chutkan, made a death threat, and then was arrested. You have to worry, if you're worried, as the Judge Merchant needs to be and Alvin Bragg needs to be, about the orderly administration of justice and no witness intimidation, etc. You need to shut Trump up in order, among other things, to keep his sort of crazed faithful from, jumping into the fray and really in a threatening way. So they want the same kinds of measures. Remember, this went up and down in the D.C. Court from Judge Chutkan, and then the court above her held. You don't have to. You were a little bit too strict in your order and had her kind of tapered a bit. And in the same way, they're saying, first, just prevent Trump from making any statements about reasonably foreseeable witnesses, period. So, if someone's going to testify, that could both be witness intimidation and could just, pollute the jury pool. Second, no statements about lawyers other than Bragg himself. So this happened in D.C., where Jack Smith, the D.C. Circuit, said maybe he's fair game. You can vilify him and come after him, but because he's not going to be trying the case and standing up in court. But the people who are trying the case and standing up in court, you can't subject them to danger, and you can't subject them to jury prejudice. So those two features in particular: nothing about witnesses, nothing about any lawyers who are going to be in court. Now, you had the same response that Trump has made in different forums now, but it doesn't, at this point, it begins to ring pretty tinny. These are restrictions on his First Amendment rights, but the courts in these other three cases have very carefully kind of called out the kind of campaign statements he can trash Biden. He can trash Biden's economic policies. He can trash Garland. He can trash Smith. He can say this is all the prosecution is, he can trash to a certain extent the prosecution. What he can't do is go after witnesses or lawyers. He can't endanger people in particular, and he can't pollute the jury pool. And, that's now par for the course for him. It happened in the DC case. Also in the civil fraud case, remember, after all the criticisms of the law clerk and the like, in fact, he violated that gag order and was fined. And then in the E. Jean Carroll case itself. So Trump came back, said, First Amendment problems, but, Bragg really has it chapter and verse and literally filed dozens of examples about people involved in cases against him and prejudice that those statements have caused in pending proceedings. So zeroing in there, and it should have no more of a kind of First Amendment purchase than in the other cases. The First Amendment issue here being not the sort of vague, right to vilify. And there is no, by the way, I mean, he's tried to make it a First Amendment analysis. That's always been somewhat flawed. The First Amendment, government restriction of speech, arises in certain settings, but there's a separate government interest that really governs when it has to do with making sure that a trial runs well and that witnesses aren't threatened. That's a different kind of analysis, even though Trump keeps trying to cram it into the First Amendment. So here it should be no more effective than before. And, Bragg was at the ready because Trump's made the same arguments before and said, look, there's no other way to do this. There's no less restrictive alternative. That's what these other cases have found. And you need to do the same here. He can't talk about witnesses. He can't talk about lawyers. He can't basically pollute the very trial that is about to start in less than a month, March 25th, when the jury selection begins. So we'll see whether Judge Juan Merchant, who's overseen the case and does seem like another hard-nosed New York judge, exactly what Trump doesn't want at this point, grants the gag order, but it's hard to see why he wouldn't. There's a clear and present danger from Trump's long record, and other courts have done the same to give him certain comfort that the idea that he's somehow abridging Trump's First Amendment rights as a candidate, you can pretty easily craft an order that lets him scream on the stump all he wants about most things without letting him really mess with the integrity of the trial and the safety of witnesses and lawyers. Talk to you later. Thanks for tuning in. If you enjoyed this video and other Talking Feds content, please take a second to like and subscribe. Talk to you later.